What a difference a dial makes. This is the third Zenith Defy Skyline I've made a video about. I did the standard 41mm watch a while back, and more recently I covered the new 36mm Skyline. Both are great watches, I like them. I don't love them, but I like them. But this, Zenith Defy Skyline Skeleton, this I really like. And the main difference is the dial. The Defy Skyline is a relatively new collection to Zenith, so now there are a bunch of Defy collections. Defy Skyline, Defy Extreme, Defy Classic, Defy 21, that's the chronographs, Defy Revival, that's the throwback watches, and I defy you to name all the watches in each collection. There are a lot of them, and that's probably why I didn't know about the Skyline Skeleton until like a week ago. Let's hit the facts first, and then we can talk about emotions. The Defy Skyline Skeleton has a 41mm steel case that's 12mm thick, and you can say 46.5mm long, but that's not the whole story on wearability. It has 100 meters of water resistance. On the bracelet, it weighs about 160 grams. On the rubber strap, it weighs less than that. I forgot to measure it on the strap, but the watch comes with both the bracelet and the strap, which is really great. The watch costs $11,000. That's $2,000 more than the standard 41mm Skyline and $3,000 more than the 36 Skyline. The movement is also different from the standard 41mm Skyline. The Skeleton uses the in-house caliber El Primero 163. There are two notable differences between this movement and the one in the standard Skyline. Seconds at 6 o'clock and no date. I know watch collectors love not having a date because it just reminds them of their social lives. But like the regular Skyline, this is an El Primero movement that beats 10 times per second, and it has a small seconds hand that makes a full rotation every 10 seconds. That's as opposed to a normal seconds hand that makes a full rotation every 60 seconds. I'm 97% sure that this seconds hand speed is just to show off, but that's probably a large part of your motivation for owning a luxury watch at all. You're just waiting for someone to notice and ask you about it. I know I am, and one day someone will ask me about it and they'll finally think I'm cool. But with this watch, I have been proactively showing it to people without them asking, because I could see a normie looking at a Rolex Submariner and being straight up bored by it. There are so many watches that are great, but visually uninteresting. But this watch, this is fascinating to look at. A skeleton watch or a skeletonized watch or a skeletonized dial, that refers to a design like this, where you can see most of the movement through the dial, where the dial is just the minimal structure. And that's also different from an open heart watch, where there's an aperture for viewing the balance, like on this Zenith Chronomaster Open. A good skeleton watch is artful and difficult, with skeletonized structures designed in a way that's both interesting and doesn't hurt the legibility of the watch. Because despite the absurdity of mechanical watches, you really should still be able to tell the time with one. And this do. I can. In fact, it's one of the first things I noticed about this watch. And it's one of the first things a few other watch nerds noticed about this too. It's really easy to tell the time, especially for a skeletonized dial. But don't expect much help from the lume, you'll have better luck with a Seiko 5. There are a few elements that make this daytime legibility possible. First, the hands. They're relatively large, they're wide. They're also polished and angled, they're not totally flat. That means that in most light there will be a side of the hands that reflects light. And there's almost always contrast between the hands and the dark skeleton structure. And that's something that the Skyline Skeleton has over the Classic Skeleton. Better contrast, and the Classic also has a date which just adds more visual complexity, especially on a skeleton watch. And it's just really damn cool to be able to read the time and look into the soul of a mechanical watch. I am pro display back, I'm on record as that. I like seeing how things work, and so being able to see the movement from both sides is pretty neat for my monkey mind. The lightly blued escape wheel and pallet fork, that's my favorite thing to see here, especially at the rate it's beating. But even the finishing on the skeleton itself is well thought out and well executed with light vertical brushing and chamfers. I also really like that the skeleton is blue, but the chapter rings of both the main dial and the seconds dial are dark gray. I never would have thought that that would work well, but it really prevents monotony in the literal sense of that word. And on the wrist, well, I'm American, so my wrist is 1/514th the length of an American football field. I guess you could also say 7 inches. With the design of this watch and how the bracelet and strap are angled and shaped, I wouldn't recommend this for a wrist much smaller than 514th the length of a football field. American football field, obviously. I certainly think this works best on a wrist larger than 6.5 inches around. And on both the strap and the bracelet, it feels very comfortable. Not too heavy, not top heavy on the strap either. And the strap comes with a nice looking and nice feeling butterfly deploying clasp. And with the quick release system, wardrobe changes are easy and fun. If I were in the market for a watch like this, or if I were looking at Zenith Defy watches, this is the one I would go for. I would dig deep in my couch cushions and come up with the extra $2,000 to get this over the standard 41mm Skyline. It's just so much more interesting to me. Plus, I like the seconds at 6 o'clock rather than 9 o'clock, and I like the lack of the day complication. This is just a very cool watch, cooler than I was expecting even. And yeah, this is now my favorite Defy Skyline so far.